This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not therapy or clinical treatment and does not create a therapist-client relationship. If you are in need of mental health support, please consult a licensed professional. The views expressed by guests are their own and may not reflect those of Fredrick Bush or OBBM. Participation in any discussion does not replace professional medical or psychological advice. Listener discretion is advised for emotionally sensitive topics.
Welcome to On Being Black Men, a blueprint for power and purpose with Fredrick Bush. This is a space for truth, healing, and forward motion for Black men and the people who love them, bringing together real voices from the community, brothers, fathers, thinkers, artists, and everyday people, sharing honest conversations about manhood, mental health, relationships, legacy, and what it means to carry both history and hope. We're not here to fix, we're here to build. From generational trauma to emotional growth, each episode offers reflection, perspective, and a call to reclaim power on our own terms. Whether you're navigating struggle or stepping into the unknown, you're not alone. This is for men. This is about men. This is On Being Black Men.
Hi, Fredrick Bush here again. This is our third episode in the On Being Black Men series. And today I'm gonna have a guest that's might seem a little bit not part of what we've been talking about over the last two, but no less important. So about 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and one of the things I initially did was, what everyone does. I'm sure they they go to YouTube, and that's what I did. I went to YouTube. I researched all these things. I went to papers, and I had talked to all my doctor friends. And I came upon an organization called the Prostate Cancer Research Institute, PCRI, Prostate Cancer Research Institute. And they do these videos that were very instructive and very helpful. And one of the suggestions that the doctor there, I think his name is Dr. Schultz, he kind of profiled that given the protocol I was heading toward, which was radiation, that I engage with a personal trainer 3 times a week for the length of the treatment, and probably beyond. And I've probably gone beyond that. In the 3 years, I've had 3 different trainers. My first trainer was Julian Walker, who was an excellent trainer, and he will probably be, we'll probably do a podcast with him next year, because Julian is also a licensed therapist. So he started off as a personal trainer. He's still a personal trainer, but he also has his practice in personal therapy and things like kind of what I do. So he's a therapist like me. So, and then I switched off to a young man, Kareem Collins, who he will probably also be highlighted next year, because he's a very good trainer also. And but he was specializing with people who have cancer and Parkinson's. So it was, very interesting being with someone who kind of understood. And part of that with Kareem, I'm not going to out him or anything, but he also has his, uh, physical and medical trials that he's going through even right now. So we had to suspend training with him because of his own medical challenges, and he's going to be on a podcast talking about his own journey in the coming months. So I was stuck finding yet another trainer. So I was, had all my feelers out, and one of my friends really, she really kind of was scouring places for me that might, be suitable, kind of easy to get to, things like that. And we come upon Body Space Fitness, BSF. And one of my criterias around taking services from people is that if I can get services from Black people, particularly Black males, I want to support Black males and their trying to build their entrepreneurial selves and businesses and things like that. And so it was wonderful knowing that uh, Body Space Fitness was actually founded and owned by a Black man, Kelvin Gary. So a little bit about he's our guest today, but a little bit about him before we show him. He's a graduate. When he graduated, I'm gonna let him talk about his schooling because it's pretty impressive. Uh, he was, graduating into corporate world, which he knew he probably wasn't really going to really thrive in, and probably didn't like many of us. We go that way because it's there, it's going to pay. But in 2012, he opened up Body Space Fitness, which is a personal boutique training gym. He does private and semi-private training, small groups training. He was a college athlete who used his expertise to help people become more fit for themselves. And it's a full body training. And there has been, it's a complete wellness program. And it works with, it's kind of interesting how I do the same thing in my therapy. I work with people who are in fashion and film and performing arts and things like that. So he's using his knowledge to keep people injury free. Uh, the uh, the gym itself has been highlighted in Self Magazine, Shape Magazine, Men's Fitness, Detail Magazine, uh, the New York Times, Women's Wear Daily. Women's Wear Daily. Hmm. He is by training what he was giving up. He was a civil engineer. He still is. He's a civil engineer. And he's also an environmental engineer. And he also is a finance graduate from NYU Stern. NYU Stern. I went to NYU. They were across the park. The joke was Stern had a nicer building than the social work building. So he is also a certified personal trainer from the National Academy of Sports Medicine, performance enhancement specialist. He's a precision nutrition level 1 coach. He's a kettlebell athletics level 1 and 2. He's a certified functional strength coach, which is why I'm there because my prostate cancer, because of the kind of drugs that I am on, wear away at your bone and muscle. So that's why you should train 3 days a week with a personal trainer to combat that. And I must say, I have gotten great results from all 3 of my trainers, but Kelvin is my newest best friend.
Thank
How you
you.
doing, Calvin?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Thank you for the introduction. I'm like, ooh,
You know,
okay.
you're wondering who I was talking about, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Sounded good. So thank you. Happy to be here and happy to contribute to the community.
Well, that's great. So, you're, as I framed out for people,
Mm,
you have me as a client because of my own uh, uh, journey across to maintaining my own health around my cancer diagnosis. And, I'm on the hormone protocol right now
mhm,
through February, March. I think it might end March, where my oncologist might uh, take me off of it, uh,
mhm,
see how it works. Um, but let's talk a little bit about um, you know what it is that you think um, it is to be a black man in this current environment that we're in. And you'll have a little bit more because you're also a business owner.
mhm, mhm. Well, I mean, ooh, where do I start with that one? I think one of the things that just I'm 49. Learned a lot over the years and learned a lot with regards to not just who I am, but who I want to be to everyone around me, right? And
Mhm.
it's you get to a point where it's like you want to be there for everyone and you want to show everyone that you can be the person that they can come to, right? And not just someone that just kind of stays in the background. Now I have that. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I have my employees, I have my all of my clients, and it's like, yeah, to each of those groups of people or categories of people, you want to stand up, be heard, be seen, and um be the leader that they come to, ask questions, look for advice, and help to make sure that things are done. So I think where I've grown over the last, I would even say the last 15 years or so, is like understanding that like most African American men, we're kind of like uh, can be seen as the bedrock of a particular group or um or like an organization that we're in, right?
Mhm.
um and that's how I'm kind of trying to choose to look at myself and the role I want to play in the world.
Okay. So, little, you did your education as a civil engineer,
Mm-hmm.
and the interesting thing about that for me is when I do my workshops. One of the
Hmm.
things, the first one, which is called Jumpstart, it becomes why build now, and so the why is the first segment. It's why build now. So the why comes from a series of talks Jawanza Kunjufu, the late Jawanza Kunjufu, gave about you know uh, black men gravitating toward playing basketball. Specifically, was basketball in the '80s.
Mm-hmm.
But he would also wind this up with, well, there were several hundred jobs, thousand jobs for engineers, and only a few black men wanted to do that. So
Hmm.
I go into this whole thing about, well, what is an engineer?
Hmm.
Why did he choose, out of all the professions, choose engineers? Um, so here you are, a civil engineer, you're an environmental engineer. So
Hmm.
what were you as a black man thinking? Uh, Even you're an athlete, so you took the road of these academic endeavors to to shape your career into this direction.
Hmm.
But how did you come by those thoughts around becoming a civil and environmental engineer?
Yeah, a good question. So I think, I was born and raised in Florida, North Florida, Panhandle, town called Panama City, Florida. And it's like back in the 80s and 90s, it was one of those places where, as an African American male, the expectation was for you to be either chucking a ball of some sort or joining the military as the way that you got out of
Mhm.
small town and got out to see the world, right? Um, and I was lucky to have kind of people thrown in my path because I think it was like around the ninth grade. I was, kind of plugging along, and I had a couple teachers, uh, you know, come to me and say, "Hey, man, you got to stop goofing off. You're a lot smarter than let yourself off to be." And I'm like, "Okay." So I started getting a little bit more involved. One of them was an AKA, very sharp lady. Another one was, just my normal science teacher, and they both kind of like helped guide me to be like, "Hey, just because people around you might think that that's what you're supposed to be, you can be whatever you want to be." And
Mm.
so I started to have people, even back then, kind of put things in my head, in my ear, like, see yourself further than this place. Um, and so I started getting into science and math, and started to realize actually I'm a lot smarter than people have told me.
Mm.
And yeah, being in the South and at that time,
Around what grade might that have been? Do you know?
I was like ninth grade, end of ninth grade, beginning of 10th grade.
Hmm.
But it was interesting because I would get it kind of from both sides. I'd I'd walk into a higher level math or AP math class, and people look over and like, what is he doing here? And I'd walk out of the class, and my friends would be like, well, why are you taking those classes? What, you think you're better than us? I'm like, no, I'm just trying to see, be my best self, right? And then fast forward, I got to intern. I did a bunch of science fair projects. One, I got introduced, and I cannot remember his name to save my life now. It's gonna haunt me. Um, but I had a couple of mentors that were alphas, and both were engineers. They worked at the Navy base in our town as engineers, and that was the Navy base that I interned at. Right, so that was kind of where the thought of like, all right, well, I like to create things and solve problems and come up with solutions to things. Um, and that's where the thought of being an engineer came from. Right, these guys were engineers. I like using science and math to solve things, and that's what engineers do. Right. So that was where kind of being an engineer came from. I did it, worked for, Merck Pharmaceuticals for a few years, actually for 4 years, 5 years as an engineer. And then I went into finance um, at Merck Pharmaceuticals, and then finance at Pfizer. But I'd started doing personal training because, as you said, I was an athlete for a while, never got injured. Next thing you know, I'm sitting behind a desk for 10 hours a day as an engineer, and I'm like constantly injured. Like, can't
Mm.
do anything. And I'm like, okay, well, I gotta go figure out how to fix this.
What,
And I
what were you
went,
getting? Paper cuts or what?
yeah, yeah, I mean, it's like, the same, like you get up and your back hurts, right? Or,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
play football with your
Mhm.
friends. Next thing you know, you're tearing your hamstring. You're like, why am I tearing my hamstring when all I've been doing is sitting all day, right?
Mm.
Um, so I slowly started to develop this love for training, and realized that engineering and training are very much related, because for every client that comes in, every situation is new, every condition is new. And it's all about doing what they taught us to do in engineering school, which is taking the toolbox of skills and knowledge that you've amassed, looking at a problem or a situation and creating a solution using the tools that you have at your disposal, right? That's what training is. Someone comes in and they have L4, L5 herniation, but they want to go skiing, or like someone comes in and they're going through cancer treatment, but they want to maintain lean muscle mass and eventually, run a marathon or something like that, right? It's like every individual is different, but you use what you know and the skills you have to create a solution for them. So that's one component. And then when you look at the human body itself, I look at it, I'm like, it's one of the most complicated pieces of equipment that you can think of, right?
Mm,
It's like,
mhm,
how much of the brain do we actually know about? Like a small, no, like use. It's like small percentage, right? So that's also helping look at the human body as like a piece of machinery. And a lot of times, if someone has an issue somewhere, it's like, okay, well, your shoulder might not. It might not be that your shoulder is hurting. It might be, or your shoulder might be hurting, but it might be another reason. Let's look up
mhm.
and down the chain of the let's look at the whole system and see if there's something going on within the whole system that's causing that, right? So yeah, that's what got me into engineering, and then like how I kind of take that. I still use a lot of engineering and what it is I do, but I got into training and coaching particularly because I helped myself. I learned, helped a few friends, but in working in the pharmaceutical industry, I realized there's a lot of times where I had this feeling of like I'm not really helping anyone, right?
Mm, mm,
And there were a number of times that I'd go into my parents' medicine cabinet and I see, a statin drug. And I'm like, hey, I made this drug. And it's like, shoot. And I taught them to like live well, eat well, um, move more. They wouldn't need this. Right.
mm.
So yeah, I might have made this, but am I helping people to the most that I could potentially help people? So that's what got me to leave the pharmaceutical industry full time and go more into training and coaching.
Oh, wow. I never thought of pharmaceuticals like that being
Mhm.
engineered in that way.
Mhm.
But you know, you're echoing a lot of what I hear from some of my clients, and kind of my own thing. I was, you know, uh, I had this career before becoming a therapist, and it was the same question: who am I really helping? I guess there's a a point where you reach, um, yeah, I'm making money.
Mhm.
To what end? You know,
Mhm.
then some other voice starts chirping at you. Well, who are you helping? Who are you helping? Are you doing all that you can do? I mean, that was my experience, and it kind of snuck up on me. That's how I ended up, uh, across the park from Stern,
Mhm.
trying to figure out, well, what's the best way of helping people,
Mhm.
and particularly, Black people, since and men in particular, because once I started that journey, it was like, well, every time I told someone what I was doing, they said, "Oh, you'll be fine. There's so few Black men doing this thing.
Mhm.
They're in the, they're not psychologists or clinical social workers or mental health professionals." And that it kind of opened up a path, almost like, if you're a running back in the backfield and you're tackling your guard, just like open up this hole, and then
Mhm.
oh, there it is. There's the goalpost. You
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
there are, other things that you have to worry about, but, they open up that opening where that path, it just seems very clear. Now you have to get through the linebacker and the, backfield and the secondary, but it's, that thing around helping, but then it moves you to say, I'm going to go out of corporate America and do something on my own. Now,
Mhm.
that is the tipping point where people say, I want to do this.
Mhm.
I have an idea.
Mhm.
I have, whatever it may be. You have actually built something.
Mhm.
So what is that trend, transition point from corporate America to owning your own business, moving towards some of your strengths, that
Mhm.
in or seeing yourself really in, a multidimensional, multifaceted way that, you say, I'm looking at the medicine cabinet. You know what? If you did this, you wouldn't need
Mhm.
these, you know? So
Mhm.
that moves you toward people's, uh, physical health.
hmm So, it's interesting because I'm like, um, I left the corporate world, started working at an Equinox. I won't get into the mechanics behind how it all happened, but it was during my time at Equinox that I was like, okay, well, I know I want to do something else, something more, right? But one of the things that I did when I left the corporate world is I hired a coach from a guy named Jack Canfield. Um, he wrote a book called The Success Principles, and
That's not the soup
Chicken
guy,
Soup for the
right?
Soul. Yeah, Chicken Soup for the
Really?
Soul. Yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry,
He,
you ran into him?
no, 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 no. He had a coaching organization. I just like
Oh, is that right?
hired one of
Okay.
their coaches. Yeah,
Okay.
because I had a goal of like, okay, well, I made a pretty good amount of money in the corporate world, and now I'm a personal trainer at Equinox. I want to get back to what I was making in the corporate world, but
Mhm.
working here. And so one of the things, success principles teaches you a lot of things, but taking 100% responsibility, and the big one being feel the fear and do it anyway, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
So
yeah.
there'd be a lot of times, and this goes back to I think being a black male. And I'm going to tie it in with another thing that I have a coach that she would tell me is sometimes you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because if you want to change and if you want to do something and you want to do more, and you want to contribute, it's amazing how much we let the stories that we tell ourselves that have never materialized and happened, but they run in our head, we'll let that stop us. I mean,
Mhm.
and I'm not perfect to this day. There are things that I'm like, oh, catastrophizing. I need to just do this, right? And yeah, there might be some effect or impact that I'll have to deal with, but not dealing with it is not the thing. So that was one of the big things that he taught me. And like, that was what got me to go from a place of being like, all right, I'm working for someone else, but I have this vision. Do I think I can do it? Yes or no? The answer is yes. Right. And the number of times that I went into banks and had a little bit of money of my own, but had the bank just like laugh me right on out of Dodge. And when I tell them how much I need, and it's like, okay, well, you can stop after the first, second, third, 10th person tells you no. Or you can keep going. Because if you have that level of like, all right, well, I'll just keep, I'll just keep getting, I'll just keep collecting no's, right? And that was like, one of the games that my coach at that time had me play is when I was like a new personal trainer. He's like, your job today is to collect 50 no's. That's a lot of no's. He's like, yeah, I know. But think about it. For every no you collect, pause, if you collect 50 no's, you're probably going to get about 5 or 6 yeses,
Mm.
right? And you don't need 50 clients. You just need to build like 5 or 6 clients at a time. And it was interesting that I actually got past the fear of no, or the fear of like, having starting a conversation with someone. And like my kids will say it today, even today, they're like, Dad, you know everybody. It's like,
Mhm.
Dad, you'll talk to anyone. I'm like, yeah, because what's the worst they can say is no, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But we also live in a city and in a place where you could walk by someone that's or start a conversation with someone that might be 1 to 2 degrees of separation away from like someone that can help you get to where you need to be, right?
Mhm.
But we've always, for some reason, had this fear. Not for some reason, but just being an African American, being a black man in this country, you've been told to, you know, this is your place, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
right? Well, I can break that. I can talk to whoever I want to, and yeah, if they walk away, that's it. That issue doesn't impact me any. Um, but I'm not going to let that fear hold me back anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's what kind of got me out of like the being in the corporate world and getting into a space where I can do my own thing, and I keep that going for like 13 years of like, not being who you were told you should be, if that makes sense.
No, it's part of, what, the philosophy of, ICBM
Mhm.
is, that, we have, stereotypes In fact, one of the I call them the ICBM-10. One of them
Mm,
is banish stereotypes, and we don't go to the opposite side of the stereotype because that's the stereotype still controlling us. We
mhm,
figure out what you just said. How do I make my own lane and,
mhm,
you know, take my own gifts, interests, desires, passions, and move forward on that and create, the tagline for us is to craft something that has yet to exist.
mhm,
So that's exactly what you're talking about. I have 50 no's. I'm only looking for 5 yeses.
mhm,
And then can craft. I don't say create because crafting is more intentional. Um, we're really paying attention to what it is that we're creating.
mhm,
So I always use the word craft. So we craft what has yet to exist. Except it in your case, it did exist in your mind's eye,
mhm,
you know, which is one of the other ones to be intentionally focused that I can in what's in my mind's eye, what's in my vision, I'm going to crowd out the noise, the distraction, and go there, you
mhm,
know. And the more you go there, the bolder you become. You almost become immune to the no's. The 50 no's are just, oh, that's just the beginning, you know.
mhm,
So you sound like a friend of mine who he sells insurance
mhm,
and other kind of products, but he wanted to get out of New York State. So when he left the state, he went to Virginia, where
mhm,
he knew nobody.
mhm,
And he no is just a way for him to get back in touch with you.
mhm,
You tell him no, and he says, "Oh," and then 6 months later, he's popping up asking you the very same thing.
mhm,
You know, even kind of more detailed about what he's trying to do. So he built a business based off of that, raised a family, you know, lives wonderful. I'll probably get a call from him in a couple of weeks.
mhm,
But yeah, he's constantly doing that. And what you also echo is what Kwame Scruggs, who was my first guest, he said the same thing. He was working in a corporate world. He had a vision, and he left the corporate world
mhm,
to well, he would say follow his bliss because he's a
mhm,
philosopher, myth teller.
mhm,
But that's what he would say, "Yeah, I
mhm,
want to follow my bliss." And that's exactly what you did. I have this thought in mind of how I can be of service and, make a living. It's, that I think in part, that's what even I was kind of looking at when I became, why I went this route, but my goal was what I was doing before, which was, the graphic design and, living in the arts, it was changing.
mhm,
So I felt I had to, I didn't want to do more of the same. And in fact, I could see where the whole shift in the industry was changing in this digital world that has exponentially even changed since I had that thought.
mhm,
And even now, when I'm teaching, people, they have a much different sensibility about what their role might be. But my thought was, if if I'm not going to do what I've been doing because I will feel very bad doing work I was doing for less money. So I will do something brand spanking new
mhm,
and start from the bottom and work myself back up.
mhm,
So that's what I've done for like the last, 10, 11 years. That's how I get here.
mhm,
So so maybe there's something you can talk about, um, I know you're a very confident person, and you're a very logical person, hence your engineering, background to
Mhm.
solve problems. Um, what what fears? I have to come from it being a therapist, like, well, the emotional side of this, you said you're a father, you're a husband. This jump from out of a corporate world, particularly pharmaceuticals, where you were probably paid good gobs of money
Mhm.
to make this change. What were the things that you had to think about and fight your fears?
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, the big one is, like, fear of failing, right?
Mhm,
It's like almost everything, like, circles around the fear of failing, but that's where, like, I said, the catastrophizing and kind of not seeing things as they are, not worse, is always it's always a tricky one, right? Especially when like you want to have a vision of where you want to go, and sometimes you do something and it doesn't work, and it's like, okay, well, see, I told you. But then you gotta have to go back to the drawing board and go at it again, sort of deal. Like again, that whole one no or one it didn't work this time doesn't mean it's not going to work the next time if you change things and do things different, right?
mhm,
Um, and then sometimes it's not easy with the doing it while you're surrounded by people all day long that are pulling you in multiple different directions at any point in time, right? So that's when the how is my mind right? How do I get my mind right, both in the moment and without the moment, or within the moment and outside of the moment? And what I mean by that is like, I tell people all the time, well, what we do in the strength training world is all driven around controlling your nervous system, brain, nervous system, muscles working together. And breathing is a um, big point of a lot of what we do from a core perspective, but also from a getting your muscles to work well together. But it's also how you calm your nervous system and kind of stay on point, right? So there'll be a lot of times that you get to these stressful points, and it's like, hey, I know there's two things that I can control: um, my breath work, my breathing, and the energy and the level of energy that I bring to things, right? Um, those are two things you can, when people say, well, I don't have enough energy, it's like, yeah, that's something that you can decide on, running around and hyping yourself up a little bit, or just be like, I'm in a place of low energy, right? And then understand that the breath work is going to help you like stay calm and like make decisions, say the right things, or be able to take on a difficult conversation and come out of it with some you know reasonable interaction sort of deal. So yeah, I think that those are kind of ways that I kind of deal with, and like that's what I tell a lot of our clients too, as a coach, right? Keeping in mind the definition of coach is like comes from stagecoach. Your job is to get people from where they are to where they want to be in a way faster than they can get on their own. So it's like
mm,
a stagecoach, right? So there are gonna be times where I have to, you know, get people to see something differently, or get their minds off of something, or get them to take a deep breath and breathe, or more importantly, learn those skills so that when they're not in front of me, they're able to do them. Right. Um, so yeah, I think I drifted off there for a
that's
second.
okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
This is a show about drifting.
Ah, there you go.
Because that's kind of how therapy works. It moves you in from one place to another and kind of, um, organically. But I have actually 2 questions. I'm gonna ask them both.
Hmm.
Um, I'm gonna ask this one first, about, how much of, uh, you know, was spoken about around mental health or physical health around your family, friends as you were growing up? Was there a sense of, uh, that, taking care of yourself or particularly in my case, when I'm thinking about mental health, is that something that was talked about, or was it taboo and never spoken about, or something like that?
Mm. Yeah, no, I can easily say it was never talked about. And I just happen to be married to a LCSW as well, right?
Oh, I didn't know
Um,
that.
yeah, so she's you know kind of that's been something that has long been a part of our like relationship and helping me understand that. And then it wasn't until later in life when my some of my family members started having you know um, issues that amongst my brother and sisters, that's something that we kind of openly talk about, as far as like how do you deal with it with your family, and just in people, my friend groups and surroundings, my all my buddies from time in college, we all understand it a little bit better now, where the space has been open to allow you to acknowledge that you can address the mental health issues, and that's going to go and help you go be the strong person, not that you are not strong because you are addressing it,
Hmm.
right? um so yeah, it's talked about a lot more growing up, like even through college. It's like,
Hmm.
no, it's
Hmm.
man up, go do
Yeah,
it,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
It's
got
like,
that.
okay, well, yeah, you can man up and go do it, but then underneath the pressure cooker is still building up steam, right?
Yes,
Without yeah, not you can still man up, but man up and go do it, but having gotten everything in check with your mind, body, and soul before you go handle more stress, right?
yes, yes. Yeah, I agree with that. So my final question is, we're toward the end of the year,
Hmm.
and people will make a lot of promises to themselves about taking care of themselves, which they'll summarily break.
Hmm.
Um, in my situation, since I was diagnosed, I have not broken. I've only broken for vacations with the family, or certain types of emergencies. So, Julian used to say, "Well, I'm a lifer in this," and I
Hmm.
think I am. Because I feel, I miss when I don't work out. I miss when I don't, have that, you know, um, wonderful soreness that you get because you were moving, because you were trying to do something a little bit beyond what you can do. And your training has definitely been an extension of what I've had uh, already.
Hmm.
Um, but for those folks who don't have, a mandate to do this, they have a choice. I mean,
Hmm.
I do have a choice, but my choice is to, live and
Hmm.
live well.
Hmm.
But for as we're coming into the new year, what do you suggest that? How do you suggest that people approach? They'll make their declarations, but how would you approach? I don't know if just saying, on January 1, I'm going to do this. Um, is there a way that they can approach it where it becomes part of um, how they can ease into it, so they have more longevity in maintaining a
Hmm.
training schedule?
Hmm.
I see all the people in your gym. In fact, they all seem to enjoy being there.
Hmm.
You create that kind of atmosphere and kind of community and camaraderie where they are interested in being in this community and pushing each other, and in a kind of a gentle, encouraging way. So
Hmm.
how might others, if they don't come to your gym, how might they approach going to an Equinox, or Planet Fitness, or even finding and just accepting the cost of a personal trainer?
Hmm. I kind of, you asked me earlier about a few books that I like, and then one of them one of the main ones that I didn't write it down, but it's a book called Start With Why by Simon Sinek, right?
Mhm.
So with most things, I say, hey, you know, if you start with why, the what, how, when, and where is like easy, right? Um, when it comes to strength training, exercise, and working out, I said at the most basic level, what we now know, and this is what why strength training and longevity and how people that work out live longer, generally speaking, sort of deal, how that's like really coming to the forefront now is at the most basic level. When you strength train and exercise and lift weights and work out, you're training your body to be more resilient and be able to handle and overcome stress better, right? Strong body handles stress, even from like a hormonal standpoint, way better than a body that's not uh, trained to handle stress. So yeah, do you get a six pack abs? Do your arms look nice because of it? Yep, it sure does. But at the most basic level, how does that help you go through the rest of life? And that is one of those things, right? You go into a business meeting that's a high stress situation. It's like, hey, when your body's in check, your mind's in check, energy's in check. That's going to help you be better in those situations. And when you have to go and deal with a strained family relationship or something like that, when your body's more able to handle stress, you're going to get through those situations a little bit better than if it wasn't, right? Um, so that's why I'm like, understand the why behind why you're going there. Yeah, do you want to reduce some body fat? Do you want to look good? Yes, but at the most basic level, you want to operate on a daily basis to your best ability. Um, I'll tell people Rome was not built overnight. Right. So we have these expectations. We live in a swipe right, swipe left world of instant TikTok, you name it, looking at other people's perceived successes and clips of 60 seconds of
Mhm.
what they're doing and
Mhm.
starting to
Mhm.
judge yourself because of it. Like I'll tell, someone will train. The goal will be to lose some fat, and it'll be 3 weeks into it. And like, oh man, I only lost 2 pounds of fat. It's like, okay, well, if you lost 2 pounds of fat in 3 weeks, that's about close to 60 pounds in a year.
Mm.
Or something like that. Close to 50 some odd pounds in a year. And it's like, so, do you think you have 50 pounds to lose in a year? And they're like, I don't, right? So it's like, yeah, you know, they're gonna be small victories. It's not a straight line. You just have to have a plan and stick to it and give it time,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So a lot of times, and that's why I jokingly say, our busy season isn't even January 1st. It's February, when the people who had the New Year's resolutions and went and tried to do it on their own come to us and be like, I tried to figure this out and I couldn't.
Mm.
In some cases, I'm like, you just didn't give it time, right?
Mm.
Rome wasn't built overnight. And then the last thing I try to tell people, and this is it's funny, it's going out in one of our newsletters today, is we have what I call the five pillars: sleep, stress, nutrition and hydration, exercise, pause, sleep, stress, nutrition and hydration, exercise, and movement. And people are like, well, exercise and movement are the same thing. Like, no, it's not, right? Sleep and stress. Getting 8 hours of sleep or 6 to 8 hours of sleep, reducing the stress, changes the way your body stores energy, changes the way your body handles stress, um, changes the way your body deals with dis-ease of
Mm.
a lot of different disease, right?
Mhm.
Um, nutrition, hydration, of course, that you know, and nutrition is how you feed and fuel your body, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Hydration, one of the number one effects of dehydration is fatigue,
Mm.
memory loss. So there'll be a lot of times where people like don't really know why they feel sluggish and slow and losing their memory and things like that. Uh, hydration, right? So nutrition, hydration being like, and I tell people, I'm like, how many times a day do you work out? They're like, oh, once. I'm like, how many times a day do you eat? They're like, oh, like 3 or 4. I'm like, okay, well, right? You want to focus on those because you're doing those a heck of a lot more than when you exercise and work out. Movement, when it comes to burning calories, non-exercise activity thermogenesis is the second biggest block of caloric expenditure,
Hmm.
next to basal metabolic rate, which is minimum number of calories you need to sustain life based on the amount of muscle mass you have. So I tell people, I'm like, hey, that's where the 10,000 steps comes in. That's where that came from. It's like, hey, I want to get people to have more non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Walking around, if you take a meeting, walking around, take a meeting, walking around. If you can walk to the store instead of taking the bus to the store, walk to the store, right? Um, and then the exercise and the strength training. Now, think of those 5 buckets. Trying to get all those 5 buckets in check at the same time is a recipe for like, this is frustrating. I don't want to do it. Counting macros is recipe for. So I tell people, I'm like, as you start out the year, start with your exercise. Then go to sleep and stress, because sleep, I mean, getting to bed early, having a bedtime, um, a routine, right? Going to bed instead of falling asleep. And then I, that's one that I still have to work on quite a bit. Learning tools and strategies like, we get the highest level of blue light um, from the sun, but we also get it from our devices and lights around us. Blue light suppresses melatonin. People are like, oh, I'm taking melatonin. It's like, well, what other tools have you used, like using blue light glasses and things like that? Don't cost you a whole lot, and it's something that you can take with you. Breathing, right? Learning good breathing, you know, uh, skills and techniques. Listening to meditations and stuff like that on the bus while you're out for a walk. Those are all things that don't really take you much time outside of what you're already doing. But like for each week of the new year, start to layer on like 1 or 2 new things that you can work on to create your whole ecosystem of things that you'll do: eating right, hydration, exercise, sleep and stress, movement, right? But don't try to do it all at once.
Mm-hmm.
That's a recipe for frustration, right?
So just layer it one after the other.
Hmm. And
Well,
that's
that
it. Like I
was
said, give yourself to like middle of February to have the whole thing in check, right? Or start it in December with the downtime around the holidays. It's like let's use that time to work on like breathing and trying to get a little bit more sleep. Or
mhm,
maybe you're not going to work as early because everyone's off, and you don't have to be in the office at 7 or
mhm.
something like that.
Okay. Well, that's a load of information that we'll see if people can take it.
Hmm.
It's not
Hmm.
like it's rocket science,
Mm-mm.
even from an engineer.
For sure,
Well,
for sure.
Calvin, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast and sharing yourself and the information that you have to offer. Um, as for me, I will see you tomorrow, bright and early.
Yep. Yes, we will. And thank you for having me. And I'm more than happy to share with you and with your community. And hopefully it's going to find what we talked about today of value, and take it and share it.
I'm sure it will. Thanks a lot.
You got it. Anytime.
Thank you for listening. And remember, whether you're navigating struggle or stepping into the unknown, you're not alone. This is for men. This is about men. This has been On Being Black Men, a blueprint for power and purpose with Fredrick Bush. You can find On Being Black Men on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and at icbmail.com. That's icbmale.com.
If you or someone you love is in emotional pain, help is just 3 digits away. Call or text 988, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It's free, confidential, and available 24/7. That's 988. Stay safe, stay grounded, and keep building.